The entire contents of this podcast and website are based upon the opinions of Tammy Garcia and her guests, unless otherwise noted. The information on this podcast is not intended to replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional and is not intended as medical advice. It is intended as a sharing of knowledge and information from the research and experience of Tammy Garcia and her guests. This is the Naturally Inspired Podcast, coming to you from our 1890 homestead in Johnstown, Colorado. I'm Tammy, and I want to thank you for joining us. Let's get started and help people feel good so they can do what they love for longer. Today on the Naturally Inspired Podcast, Dr. Tommy John is joining us. Dr. Tommy is a doctor of chiropractic care. He is also a training specialist. He brings a very unique view because he thoroughly understands that every cell, tissue, and organ is controlled by the brain and the brain stem and the spinal cord. So Dr. Tommy has been a real advocate during this time of COVID, and his consistency of information is bringing a lot of light in some dark times. Dr. Tommy talks about his message today, which is our immune systems and pandemics, on this episode number 39 of the Naturally Inspired Podcast. We always start out on the podcast with getting to know our guests. So I did a little bit of research, but I am curious to introduce you to our audience and just get your story out there because it's pretty interesting. So, so Dr. Tommy John, what's your story?
So my story, geez.
Where were you born?
I was born in Fullerton, California, and so I was a West Coast baby, and
Nice.
my father was in professional sports.
Yeah.
And so we traveled.
He's a pitcher, right?
He played. He was a pitcher with the White Sox and the Dodgers and the Yankees, Angels, and A's. Played for 26 seasons.
Wow,
very
that's
proud.
Incredible.
Yeah, very proud of what he accomplished. And so we traveled. We lived in Oakland. We lived in Anaheim. I was born in Fullerton. We lived in North Jersey. We lived in Florida. We would go everywhere. And so we traveled quite a bit. So I don't really have a hometown other than here, like where I am now is my home, right?
You feel most at home in California?
You know, it's crazy because we left when I was in third grade and never came back. I visited maybe twice. Mm-hmm. And then there's a huge story on how I came back here. And it's almost like I came back here 5 years ago, so 37. And it's almost like California was like, I'm going to let you go, but you're going to come back. You're just going to go live a little bit and you're going to come back when you're ready. And then like brought me back in this really cool, spiritual, connected way. The story's pretty outrageous, but and it's like ever since I've moved back here, like everybody who's a part of this whole thing, like so much has generated into, oh, wow. Like I finally, for the first time, feel I'm where I'm supposed to be, right. Where we can make the best. Like Mandela made the best of prison. Right. You know, like we just create Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp, created through attitude. Like what? So I've lived some pretty awesome life in these different areas, but was never like, man, this is it. Like I love it here. And for the first time, it's a life I don't want to vacation from. Like I literally, awesome. People will try to ask me to come visit or go here. And I just went to the East Coast not too long ago. And I'm a snob because I'm like, all right, I'm good. Like it was 2 days, stayed 4. And I'm just like, I could, I just really love where I live. And I love what I get to do every day. And there's like, that's incredible. I've never heard that. I'm like, I know, but I've gone through a lot to get here. Right. Because they'll give you the must be nice thing. And I'm like, well, I busted my tail and sacrificed a lot and I risked a lot and it was scary and I cried and I was alone and I was by myself. And,
and you became a different person in the process of all that.
Absolutely. And if we talk in another week or month or whatever, I should be a different person then because I'm constantly trying to sharpen and change and evolve and adapt. That if we aren't continually trying to get better,
we're sliding backwards.
This whole backwards or sideways. And I was kind of stuck in that for a while where you just kind of exist to exist, right? Like, but what's my purpose? What's the bigger service I'm here? What's my connection to more? And what am I learning? And what was that all about? And oh, interesting. What should I try to manifest this time? All right, let's just try that. I don't know.
So what are you doing there? Tell us about your practice.
So I call myself a performance and healing specialist, classically trained as a chiropractor, been in sports performance for 20 years, but have worked with conditions ranging from MS to Parkinson's to developmental disorders in kids to ligament damage in pro athletes to the herniated discs to you name it. I've seen it. I've worked with it. I was obsessed with pulling apart injuries and cause and getting into the fingerprint, so to speak, of each person's case.
Right.
And I was a performance trainer, personal trainer. I did private baseball lessons, everything. And then I put it all together. And it's literally a performance and healing place. Some of my clients call it the healing den. It's literally the setup is when you come in, there's nothing you can pick up and read, look at, hear, or touch that isn't going to improve you in some way. I mean, there's nothing out of place there. There's nothing that I don't fully support.
Right.
And I've gone through like years of working as an employee for people or working with other people as partners or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, I wouldn't do that. Or, oh, that's a mixed message. Or that's kind of confusing to a person.
Right.
And I want a place where it's congruent across the board.
Right.
And that's why even on my Instagram page, I only have one page. It is my work page and it is my life page because it's
they're congruent. Yeah.
It's all of it. Yeah. Like how
you
I
walk your talk.
Is how exactly. And there's authenticity I feel I'm very proud of. And I try to make sure I'm that, because especially in health of any kind, I just feel we're lacking authenticity. And a lot of these spiritual gurus or these motivational people.
Yes.
Some of the, and that's because I just truly were vulnerability and authenticity. And a lot of people who will, I'm very open book. I wear everything on my sleeve, maybe to a fault if that's it. But people will then realize that even me as this, like, oh, do I call you doctor? No, I don't even care. It's a title. It doesn't make any difference. I'm right you are. And I've gone through what you've gone through. I'm actually going through it right now. Here's my story. Oh, wait, you were depressed earlier today? Oh, hell yeah.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? And some days I'm jealous, or some days I'm angry, or some days I'm in love. And I'm like, hell yeah, right there with you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like people, as a support system, to know that we're not alone in this whole thing.
Right.
I'm not any bigger, better than you. I have so much humility that every day clients are my teacher. Yeah. I learned something the other day from a 12-year-old kid. Been doing this for 20 years, saw something in a 12-year-old kid I'd never seen before. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it just then triggered this thing that wow. And I'm like, had I not met this kid, whether he continues or not, I met his dad. Like, I'm always learning. And that's why everyone's like, hey, are we re-evaling? Are we going to do stuff? We re-eval every day because you're a different person every day. Right. And I'm a different person every day. And so for the first time in my facility, I feel like when I come in, people will sit and we go through, okay, check your spine. We adjust if necessary, connect mind to body. Then we're doing some movements. There's some meditation. There's some nutrition talk. There's some energy release. There's just sometimes I back off and there's just like conversations going that sometimes are a little hostile, but that's okay. Like, I don't censor anything in there. Like, if you guys want to talk, but you got to be able to handle the consequences of whatever. Like, this is a real open society. It's okay. Just talk. No,
what made you jump into chiropractic and a more natural approach versus like becoming an allopathic doctor or going into mainstream?
That was the thing. Like, when we first started, we were working with people who went that route, who went through physical therapy, who were on 4 or 5 medications, who were labeled with a diagnosis, who were, limited by those confines, by being put in a box and
having a label.
And so and it didn't work, and so I just saw so many times of what didn't work. Like, we always like to complain of, oh, my parents were awful to me, that's why I am the way I am. Or you got to see what didn't work. And then you get to use the opposite. Like, that's where I think, like, I did it so many times. I saw what wasn't working. And I'm like, well, that just doesn't make sense then. If it continually isn't working, what's the opposite? And then you go down that route and you start to see, well, there is a way that natural rule and law and principles are followed. That's more holistic. Why? Interesting. Okay. Where doctors, PTs, people on the allopathic side were coming to us to heal. And that's why I say, you want to find a doctor.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's why I would say, I'm like, why are you guys and girls in that business then if you know it doesn't work? Yeah. Well, it's just my case and I'm a unique. And I'm like, okay, I agree you're unique, but we've got a lot of your people that it doesn't work. And why would it work? Here's the rule. And so a lot of times I will say, some people are like, how do you find a practitioner? A question to ask is, would they, if they got sick or injured, do their treatment if they were sick or injured? And a lot of them won't. Yeah. A lot of them go somewhere else, but practice in that. And I was like, wow.
That's interesting, isn't it?
That says a lot. And I would see it a lot. And then the nervous system it was fascinating me. And I just wanted to cut out the middlemen. There were too many people involved in our patient. If you were a patient, we send them to a chiro. Then you come back and you're working with me, you're working with my colleague and another colleague. And then there was somebody else, a nutritionist. And I was like, there's too many people. Right. And there's all this, what if we all had either one under one umbrella, everyone speaking the same language, or what if I just went and got it, and then I had all these tools that I could do to facilitate or suggest, because I don't heal anybody.
Right.
I don't
we heal ourselves, right?
That's it. So I'm just a suggester, facilitator. Yeah. And that's truly why I went back to school at 32 years old to get a chiropractic degree. I could have thought about being a naturopath, and it was just like, no, the nervous system, I'll stay there. Naturopath would have been a little longer of school, a little higher up on scope and what I could do, but it was like, I'm good there. I'll infect from that side. And so it's chiro, it's training, it's movement, it's all those 8 essentials I keep talking about on my page a lot. So that's stuff. Is empowering people, right? To understand.
It's so fascinating. We've talked about labels on this podcast so many times. I had a guest, one of my first guests was a gal who had lupus, or was told that she had lupus. Yeah. From like 19, she was told she had lupus. And then she carried that disease and label with her for many years until she just got sick and tired of having the label. And she mentally broke out of the label. And today she has no symptoms of lupus.
And that's what's crazy is I love those stories, right? I get goosebumps every time I hear those stories. Yeah. We're not invincible. You or I are not invincible. That's not what we're saying. But like, what if those stories were broadcast? What if? Do you know what I mean? And I mean, there's millions of them everywhere. What if it was just, instead of seeing Pink, with Susan G. Komen, think about cancer. Yeah. Think about a virus. Think about what if nonstop we were thinking about all this possibility, this capability that we have inside it all the time. Right. What is that? What could we do? And I hear that all the time. It's just like, sadly, I've asked occupational therapists, I've asked psychiatrists, I've asked, hey, what's it going to take for that person or this epidemic? Not COVID. I won't give it credit, but like this thing coming back. Any injury, any disease, right. What does it take for somebody to truly, and they're like, sadly, a bottoming out, like a point of emotional, you hit rock bottom.
Break. And that's just it. Don't want to take it anymore.
And that's where the greatest change happens. And what sucks is that we obviously don't want to go through that ourselves. We don't want loved ones to go through that. We don't want children to go through that. No. But that's where you or I or our crew or your community is there for support. Like, listen, you're going to bottom out. Yeah. We're here for you and you're not alone. Right. We got you. Go. They even said to my brother was diagnosed, quote unquote, with psychiatric blah, blah, blah. And he passed away. And so he passed away battling that in that allopathic model. And so I could get into a lot of things on there. But one of the things I did notice was he was loaded on all these medications. And I mean, serious shit, like lithium, Seroquel, like crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay. And he was just like, it's just to keep you here. So you don't go up, you don't go down. Right. So I'm like, okay, I can't speak my truth because I can't have him thinking his big brother is doubting the
what
path
he's doing.
that there. So I had to get him to believe, because the best treatment is the one you believe in.
Right.
It doesn't
That's
matter
so
which way you
true.
go. That's
Yes.
it. So I'm like, you got to believe in this, bro. And I, like, in my head, I'm like, I don't believe in it, but I believe that he can believe enough to, it's not how I would go about it. It's not about me. I'm going to support the shit out of this. All right, dude, no, they got you. This is good. We're going to do this. Knowing his kidneys are going to fail at like 30 years old, I'm giving him supplements, and I'm buying him hundreds of dollars of supplements that he couldn't afford, knowing he's going to have a kidney replacement because of the medications he's on. How about that one? Yeah. So they said, his literal psychiatrist said, you have to be on these medications, because the therapy work that you are going to do is going to be so aggressive and hard to take in that your medications will help you process that. And I heard that, and I was like, they're right. Therapy, breaking down, stripping layers, bottoming out, shedding husks, whatever you want to say, is crazy. It is scary. It hurts. We have to strip down to a stimulus greater than the stimulus that created the depression, anxiety, mania, whatever it was. So we got to stimulate in some way more than that. Okay. But yours and my, to prepare that garden for that onslaught is belief in a higher power, purpose, community, sleep, meditation, sun, movement, nourishment. Nutrition. We do all those things, right, to prepare the system, because what we're about to do is going to get hard. They look at it as, hey, what we're about to do is going to go hard. Let's give you sport. And I was just like, they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
The concept is right.
So it's just like they steal the principles. And I'm reading Sire G's book, Regenerate, Dr. Kelly Brogan's husband. He's Green Med Info. And in there, he said, it's either it's over 80% or it's like 70 to 80% of medications, and he phrased them in some way. Some division of medications are plant-based.
Yes. Yeah.
They got them from plant-based formulas, then they just create the synthetic
form. Yeah.
So because
they can't patent a plant.
You can't patent sun or patent charcoal or patent, you know what I mean? And it's like, you guys are interesting. You'll acknowledge that it works.
Right.
But you'll go that route to steal it and patent it and come up with this way of making, it's money. It's billions of dollars.
Billions. Probably, I think, I was just talking about this with someone else the other day, probably Big Pharma rules the world.
That's what I would say. They're over everything. They control everything. There's no, that's it. And then whoever's above them, I don't know who that is.
I'm not sure anybody is.
I don't
anymore.
know, is it just them, or is it, so J.D. Rockefeller did the Flexner Report in 1910, and they were the ones that put holistic medicine as quackery.
Pseudoscience. That's when the term pseudoscience started.
He came in as a petroleum oil guy, and then pharmaceuticals infiltrated the medical schools, and then holistic was gone. So it was the Flexner Report to show that holistic doesn't, in 1910.
Yeah.
So that's,
and now here we are today, and there's a pill for everything.
And they rule politics. They own the president. They own countries. They own medical schools. They own our food. They own our education. They write the books. They publish it's scary. It's scary.
It's scary.
I'm like, well, as scared as I am, I'll just try to get myself in the best position possible to watch the horror film.
Well, you're certainly outspoken, because I follow you on Instagram and have for quite a while, and you got so much good content on there. I always learn something from you. It's so great. And your new mantra since the pandemic started is our immune systems end pandemics.
And pandemics quotes.
Yes. Pandemics is in quotes.
That drives everybody crazy, by the way.
What do you mean by that, Dr. Tommy?
Why is pandemics in quotes? So I go, because I was like, okay, what am I fighting for? Like, we all are going to take roles with this new event, and I'm like, okay, what's my role in this as a service? What's my service? I could just stay in my office, which hasn't changed. Like, my life hasn't changed. Well, that's selfish. This is bullshit. I need to do something.
Yeah. I think we all feel that way when we have knowledge about the truth.
What could we do to get it out there? And is it enough? And now I'm like, okay, I have this platform to technically reach millions for free. Like we can just put it out there. All right. what do I want them to know? And then I'm going through and I'm like, okay, it's not a pandemic, but what's the one thing? Because I'm a savage about consistency. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's my dad. I mean, my dad was one. I know we just have that as humans, but if you watch him, he's just like, he can do those little things over and over and over and over. And that's the way I am, to a point of like,
because that's the big secret. Everyone thinks that, achieving something is about being talented or special. It's about consistency.
Consistency behind either your purpose,
and time,
your why, just all the time.
Yeah.
It's all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do I want to hammer home? Well, if we took, because everyone was throwing in my face the 1918, the Spanish flu, right?
Yep. Yep.
They were throwing in my face some other things, polio, and they were getting me bubonic plague and whatever else, right? And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking back through history and I'm going through, and again, history is just whoever wrote the books is giving us the information, because this point in history is going to be written about.
Yes, it will.
What do you think say?
Yeah.
and that's
horrible pandemic.
Exactly. How Trump ruined the world.
Yeah.
And the immune system failed everybody, and and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I was looking back in the most horrific scenarios ever. We still survived it because humanity's still here.
Yes.
So I was like, ultimately, what's the one thing we all have in common? We're humans. We're a human race. I said all lives matter in the Black, and I got like killed on that. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but it is the human race. Like, we all human. I don't look at that, but we're all human. What do we all have in common? We're here because our immunity, hands down. And then I've gotten a lot of hate from people. I'm immune compromised. We talked about a little bit before. Yeah. You need to be sensitive to the people that are immune compromised. I'm like, they have immune systems too. Yeah. They still work. Otherwise they'd be dead. They'd be somewhere else. Yeah. No, wait, the only hope we have is our immune system. And even if it's something I don't necessarily maybe support or believe in, let's just take, and I don't want to push an agenda, but like, let's just take a vaccine, right? Like, okay, they can inject the virus of any kind and you get no response. You take the Spanish flu, bubonic, and they put it in everybody and nobody responds. And they're like, well, wait, why don't people respond? Because there's no immune response to that. It's a dead
virus.
They need to activate the immune system. So that's why they put in aluminum and methyl and mercury and all this other stuff, right? Yeah. So I was like, even in a vaccine support, Bill Gates is banking on the immune system of everybody to respond. He's banking. Zuckerberg's banking. Soros is banking. They're banking on our immune system. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. The one congruent, no party agenda is the immune system of the freaking world. And I'm like, I made t-shirts out of it. I'm like, oh my God. And then I had to antagonize and not give credit to, so I put pandemics in quotes.
Right.
And if I capitalize all the letters, like our immune systems end, I lowercase pandemics because I don't want to give it any proper noun. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, this isn't even, and even if it was something to worry about, our immune system would be the only goal. Our only thought on TV, on anything, should be immune support.
Right. Done. And we're not hearing that.
Not at all.
And this is what's been driving me crazy through the whole thing, is because we're talking about, things that can control the symptoms. We're talking about things to prevent, not get it. It's a virus. It's out there now. Are we going to live in a bubble for the rest of our lives? The whole lockdown, which I supported in the beginning, because how is this going to unfold? Will our medical staff be ready for us? I totally get it. Flatten the curve. But the goal was never to not ever get the virus.
Right. And that's what it's become.
And that's what it's become. And so that's why we're in big trouble here in Colorado, because now we've been mandated to wear a mask. So if we're wearing a mask everywhere and we're still feeling that fear that we have to cover up, we have to stay in, we're going to be less likely to just go about our lives and start creating this herd immunity.
I think that's the biggest thing. I don't, wear a mask or don't wear a mask. I think the scariest trigger is, one, we can't see emotional expression. Mm-hmm. Like I did that post where it was like angry, sad, depressed, accepted, safe. And the eyes didn't change. It was just you know, and so I had a hard time reading somebody in a conversation. Was that to a
For
kid?
sure.
Or
To a
was that to a
kid.
child? Or they're trying, you know, babies look at their moms and just stare. And the mom's like, hi, honey, you know, and she's doing, the baby's just totally taking in the expression that the mom is giving with the energy, with the voice tone and everything else. We're losing that. The fallout from that will be huge. Plus the fear, like you said, when we look, it is now, I'm afraid of that person because that person can hurt me. And then that constant thought will do more harm from the inside out. And that's where I think the collateral damage that'll come from this. But like you said, nobody's suggested any health recommendations at all. It hasn't been health anything. Even
they're actually screening us and shadow banning us if we do talk about vitamins or, you know, other things to keep yourself healthy. They actually, well, this is fact checked, you know, this isn't true.
So, like deleted, and I'm like, you know what? It comes down to the stuff being deleted is the stuff you kind of want to just follow. Like, you want to know how to follow the censored route and just do what everybody who's being censored is, because that's a threat to you know, the alternative, which is stay sick and stay labeled and stay diseased and keep generating income. Every cancer patient's $750,000. You know what I mean? Was like so there's money. Like, what is it to a society that knows they can heal themselves or knows, geez, it's a society I want to live in. It would be a big stuff, but they can't have that, you know? And when we say they, it's like, who's they? I don't even know.
I know I don't think and that's just it. I think when you talk about this stuff with people, sometimes they're like, but why would they want us to be that way? Who's they? Why? Well, I think we need to not get hung up on the why, because we can see the result of medications.
Right.
We can see the result of not, you know, taking care of your health. And a lot of these, when we just talked about it a few minutes ago, you know, you want to walk your talk. Well, a lot of these so-called professionals, I would not take health advice from if they paid me to take it based on their results.
Bottom line, somebody said, I was like, you know what? Take health advice from the healthiest people you know.
Yeah.
And they showed clips of like the Chicago mayor or the LA Department of Health, and it's like
she looks like she's half dead already.
Walking Dead character. And I'm like, is that affected? Like, did somebody alter that picture? It can't be. If aliens came down right now, hey, show us your health advisors.
Right.
Like, aliens would be like, wait, what? Like, we left this to you, and this is who you're. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to end.
They don't manage health. They manage medicine.
Disease or manage medicine. And it's become, Rita Rogers said that it's become, medicine is consumer. And that's not, it's not us. We're not selling cars, you know, we're not painting houses. This is a human being. That's the most quantum complicated, vast, amazing, immeasurable thing that we know of right now. And technically, I don't even think we're supposed to know the capacity that we truly could do, because I think it would blow our brains couldn't handle.
Right.
Like, there's only why we only know 4% of the ocean. Why do we only know?
I've said that exact same thing. We have so much to focus on still right here.
Oh, and that's what blows me away. And I'll even say, I'm like, hey, every time they're like, hey, science found out that, and they'll say, study shows that, I'm like, all it's showing is that they're finally catching up to what the body's been doing since the history of mankind. They just were able to measure it. But just because they show, oh, the small intestine is the second nervous system, it communicates to that's the way it's been. They just found that out. But it's always been
that way.
You know what I mean? Like, what else will they find?
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter. Just go with, does it make sense? Is it working?
Right. And it's interesting to me too, because, you know, there's a lot of this stuff that was practiced many years ago, you know, like all these sayings that we just discredit now, apple a day keeps the doctor away, you know, those types of things.
Right.
We've thrown those out the window because they aren't science, or they aren't, you know, said from someone in a white coat.
Yeah.
They're just your grandma's old sayings. Well, why do you think your grandma said them?
Right.
Where did they come from? You know, if they didn't work, then how did they become a saying? Right.
That's where it's like, They will. We've become over dataed. I had a conversation with Erica Suter on the metrics and data. They did it in baseball. They do it in sports. Well, they did it in medicine so that you could take somebody, crank them through a school, draw blood, look at the metrics, see what's off of the norm that the pharmaceutical companies claims is health.
Right.
And then we can fix, and you can fix times a million. You can just keep cycling. It takes no brain power. It takes no art, philosophy, or science.
Right.
Zero. Like art, philosophy to include, nope, it's just go. It's just a number. You tweak the number and you're healthy. And there you are. And it's like, but that doesn't work.
They didn't heal anything. The body didn't get a chance to heal anything.
No, because you're leaving out creativity and intuition and, emotional, like they don't, and the science does find that, but they call it the file drawer. It's the file drawer effect. When there is a study that will prove that intuition is, or the placebo is stronger.
Right.
Or
they can't explain it, so it just goes into a file.
An apple a day, they will hide it in the file drawer. Right. So that the general public, like you or I, can't find it.
Right.
Or if you were in med school and you wanted to find it, it's like almost impossible. But the science is all out there. They just do the science that will be the former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, pretty prestigious, a periodical.
Publication, yeah.
He even said, we don't medical literature. It doesn't even. It's almost not even worth talking about anymore because it's bought. There's agendas. There's
who funded the study?
That's it. Cherry picking. It's it's like you can't even decipher. So just don't even worry about it. So anytime somebody says study says, I don't. Okay,
it doesn't mean anything.
Whatever you want, right? I don't know.
That's such a good point.
Stop it. So.
I love that you brought up, science, philosophy, intuition, because there's these catchphrases. I'm sure you're familiar with all the slogans flying around right about now. And one of them is, we believe in science.
Right.
Right. So and implying that if you don't follow the government's protocols, you don't believe in science.
Right.
Right. So being a chiropractor,
yeah,
you've probably come up against this, right? Because chiropractic, when it first came out, I think it's definitely more acceptable now, but when it first came out, that's pseudoscience, right?
Right.
It's all about discrediting.
Right.
When it comes to natural healing and anything that pharmaceuticals can't make any money off of. Right. It's about discrediting. So I'm always really suspect when someone starts off with discrediting. It's just yuck. If your data's so good, lead with that.
Right.
Right.
No, I know.
So how do you feel about it when people say that?
And so I get, again, it's there. If we dig hard enough, it's all there. Epigenetics is in science. Epigenetics, that your genes don't do anything. 100% of your health expression is on your lifestyle. 100% now. New biology, like we're 14 generations affected by our choices here. We can turn things on, turn them off. MicroRNA, it's science, and they'll do the science that supports their narrative, and that's fine. But they won't go the other way. They'll try to discredit you. And it's like they discredited Linus Pauling for winning 2 Nobel Prizes for his heart disease reversal using vitamin C.
Right.
2 Nobel Prizes. The AMA got his license stripped. Why? Because it's a $10 bottle of vitamins that totally takes out their. So you have to see who's discrediting who. If I was. Some people will come to me and I'm like, you know what? Strip me, discredit me. I'll still do what I do. You can't take away my reputation as far as how I affect. And you got to look at who's discrediting. So if I were to lose my license for my mission that I'm doing on social media right now, the only people that are going to turn me in are chiropractors. Right. That's it. So it's going to be somebody whose practice is being threatened by me saying this. And a lot of chiropractors are insurance based. They don't have any practical. They just crank them. There's no logic to it. There's no
the walk-in, the $20 walk-in with no follow-up or whatever. Yeah.
There's a ton of bad in every profession. I get it.
Yep.
So it's okay, if that were the case, I'd still do what I do. I just wouldn't have the title. Take my license. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do what I do. it's not going to be a piece of paper on the wall, but I'll still
Right.
be able to do. I actually jumped through the hoops that you made me, because your regulations called the CCE said, and you guys chose the classes that I studied, which maybe 2% of them were important for health. The
Right.
rest is to work in an insurance-based model, try to go more medical. They're trying to go allopathic and bring in prescriptions into chiropractic.
Oh,
So
are
when
they
I got through
really?
school, I'm like, this school is a bust. I marched in Washington. I wanted our accreditation to be gone, because I was just like, no,
Wow.
nothing's sacred anymore. There's no purity to anything anymore, because big pharma is bleeding
Trying to
into
get into
all
every
of them,
facet of it.
all of them. And
Yeah.
so I was
Well,
like,
they've
wow.
taken over a bit of acupuncture, right?
Yeah,
By trying to call it dry needling, which
exactly.
does not even come close to what acupuncture actually is.
No. And the 5,000-year-old, all,
Yeah.
and like the schools are not that way. And that's what's hard, is to try to find a purist in the field. When you come in, they shouldn't have to ask you what's wrong with you, because it doesn't matter. They'll
Right.
go ahead and do their makeup, and we'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is what I found doing the discipline. I'm
Right.
going to put you in a better position to heal. All that other stuff is just, it's your body talking to you. I'm not really concerned about it, but the body will go ahead and deal.
Yeah.
But now we got, what's wrong with you? And person comes in, I'm infertile. Oh, I've got something for that.
Right.
It's like a prescription, but in the holistic world, where people and naturopaths are
Right.
making a lot of money off that.
Right.
And now it's this
It's
big
been years of programming the public, though. We're
right,
programmed to want a label. Please give me a label.
to
I
be
can't
somebody.
be at peace until I have a label. Which is,
And
so
that's it.
what we need to do is educate and have people shift the paradigm into thinking, okay, well, I'm in dis-ease right
Yes.
now,
Yes.
right? I'm in dis-ease. I'm not feeling well. So my body's talking to me, giving
Right.
me signals. Now it's time to become a detective and
Right.
figure out how I can break this down and
Right.
get my body back into ease.
Right.
It's really that simple. But when you put all these giant monster labels on everything and create this fear, the fear elevates your symptoms.
Yes.
Then you're making choices based out of fear, like your back's up against the wall, and they may not be the right choices.
Right. And that's what's so hard, is that people do, when they don't know what's going on. It's foreign, it's new, symptoms are scary. I cry.
Yeah.
I cry when I get I express symptoms like the flu or whatever, and I hate it. I would bite off my pinky toes to never ever feel it. Like I
Yeah.
would, but I start to doubt everything, and I'm like, oh
Yes. Yeah.
God. And I will doubt. And I'm the person you're not going to knock off beam. Like
Right.
nobody's going to challenge me enough you're not going to convince me otherwise. It's not
Right.
happening. But
Right.
at that time, I'm like,
You're
holy crap.
vulnerable because you're
I just
feeling
almost,
something.
I totally almost left my path. What if this was something different? And so I completely am empathetic towards somebody when they're feeling that way.
Yeah.
But all the reason to more empower, give the message, like, you got this. This is a message. We're going to do this. It's simple
Right.
because it's going to be hard, but we're going to do this together. But people will love that label. And then the hard part about the label, and there's so many saying this, and it's not an end game, but once you have the label, it's hard to break that identity.
It is.
If you're going to truly heal, you can't be the label anymore. You can't
That's
be
right.
the diagnosis.
You have to let it go.
You
You
have to
have to let it go.
stop talking about that. And
Yeah.
I won't acknowledge people's symptoms almost at all. And they'll almost get offended that I haven't.
Yeah.
And then I kind of let them into why. And then
Right.
they're like, oh, okay. And then past that day, I never bring it up
Yeah.
because I've watched. If you don't give it attention, it's not anything. But as soon as you go, hey, how's oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
and I'm like, you weren't thinking that till I just told you. Interesting. Do you see how that
Right.
works?
Yeah.
Now you're going to surround yourself with people that aren't like, hey, what's wrong with you today? Or, hey,
Right.
oh, what's going on? When people are like, hey, what kind of day are you having? Awesome. How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm awesome. Or they're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm struggling because of, and I'll dump a bunch of stuff on them. And they're like, you give us like the answers. I think like you're just too honest sometimes. Like, look,
I don't know how to be anywhere else.
you asked me, right? You asked me. You don't have to ask me, but understand that also everybody is my therapist. Like the cat outside, I just cuddled with, that cat is my therapist. My neighbor, when I saw her at sunset, I shared my feelings. She's my therapist. I'm hers. Like community, you know, like that's what those places, those blue zones and everything else, those pockets of people that are really healthy, they all air it out and support, and there's no judgment, and there's no, dude, let's get real. Let's go. What's your
It's so important to build community, you know, and life into your lifestyle, because I was on the radio this morning and we were talking about lifestyle, and, you know, they're asking, well, what do you mean about lifestyle? It's like, well, you have to surround yourself to support your lifestyle. You can't be the only one that doesn't eat McDonald's.
Right.
You can't be the only one that would rather go do something active than, you know, use food as entertainment.
Right.
Because when you are, it's not going to feel good.
Right.
Right. You're not going to feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. You're going to actually have pressure to conform to what they're doing, because you don't want to make it inconvenient to them. Right.
And
so
you're having to alter yourself for that. Where I said, the more you believe in something, the more you're going to alienate yourself. It's just the way it is. Like, and it's hard to find like the real, and I'm super sensitive to it now, that there'll be some that I'm like, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden, nah, like that doesn't, and it's not judgy. It's just, I mean, I guess it's judgment to who I'm going to let in my circle. Right. It's evaluating or whatever. I'm like, some of them are so offensive. And I'm like, you're a good one because you challenge me more. And that's interesting. I kind of like it. Or you super support me. But if you're this like hybrid and you don't really know, and you're over here and you're not really sure, and you're judging and you're doing this, I'm all right. You know, but again, I always go, and something was just, they always throw the, what if you were me?
Right.
You know, what would you do if you were me? Okay, here's what I would do. Because my health and existence is like the greatest thing I could ever, we won the life lottery. We were born. We're here. We get to experience it. That's the most important thing to me, is that I get to experience life. Okay. And I want to experience it at the highest level. So if I roll through my 8 essentials, my power and belief, my purpose, my community, my relationships is kind of one of the tougher ones, because it's something that outside ourselves, right?
We can't control other people's actions.
We can't control. We can just control how we respond to them. So I would be so selective on who I allowed into, because if my purpose was to reverse somebody I was reading, what is the tissue, cystic fibrosis. So if I was, it's like irreversible, but Sire G, a lot of people have done it. So let's say I was going to do this, and I am geared, and I'm going to commit, and I believe, and everything's around it. Everybody in my world, everybody that I'm going to be exposed to, is going to absolutely keep that in mind, and have that same mindset, and have that same emotional energy signature. No, this is it. We're going, and this is my reality, not if I went into a field to try to fix this or heal this through big pharma or whatever, right? A medical doctor, and they're going to give you well, your chances are only 20% have responded positively to this treatment, but it is 20%. You just threw me in a box, because 20% of what? We're not all in this together. Like we're all individuals who have this unique nature to us. No, you just limited me, because you also called me a number, and only 5% live past 32 years old. I can't know that, because as soon as I know that, I'll have to really work hard to unknow that.
Which is kind of part of the medical model, right? They tell you straight up, okay, you got 2 years.
And it's like, stop, wait. And that's fine if somebody goes 2 years. That's also okay. But if here's what we got. This is what we call it. Here's your options. This is our best option here, but here's all the possibility of what could possibly happen outside. There are some other people that I know, that I trust on the other holistic side of it. And there's been some really positive responses. Then you figure it out. So that medical freedom, right?
Right.
And we go that route. And if we wanted to, I now literally I have a crew that everyone's like, you're a what the hell do they call it? Antisocial.
Oh.
I'm like, am I? Because I'm really social in my office. I have like 200 deep conversations. So I don't think just because on the weekend I might not talk to anybody for 2
Right.
days just to dump my cup so that when I go
Yeah.
on Monday, I'm clear.
Yeah.
Or I'm really selectively social,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of people won't understand that. But if I were in this really vulnerable state
Yep.
and was scared and needed support, I wouldn't want people giving me just this positive affirmation. No.
Right.
I want, like, whatever my reality is, this is where I'm going, but you all are supporting this
That
mission.
same thing.
And if
Yeah.
you're not on that, I don't have room for you, and you're
Yep.
out, and I'm going to put up this block, even if it's family.
Right.
And that's the hardest part, right?
Right.
It's like, damn.
Right.
And that could be a dream
And
job.
that's so true, because sometimes it is our family because they're afraid for us.
Right. And they're just like, you don't understand though.
Yeah.
Please, what if you did this? And you do you watch Breaking Bad at all? I know it's
I did see Breaking Bad. Yep.
Okay. So I'm fascinated by the chemistry and just how he was, his character, a whole bit. Like, some of it was dark, but do you remember in the beginning, he's just like, no, I don't want to live my life that way. And then his wife was crying. She's like, please do the treatment, because she didn't want to lose her husband.
That's
and so
right.
I was like, what a battle, what a scene, what a real thing that he wanted to do this
his own way.
The son was pissed that he chose not to do the treatment. Do you remember? And he just
and his son was handicapped too.
You know what? My family is the most important thing to me. I'm going to live out my life with my family with this route, and we're just going to live as strong as we can. So it was, I was like, that was a real interesting thing that stood out to me because of our background. But I watched, I'm like, I wonder what I would do then, because obviously I'm single, so I can be very selfish with my, but if
choices.
I did have somebody else to consider, and it's like, wow, it's a more difficult thing. Or if you have a whole family, where you have
a whole family that thinks they know. And it's kind of interesting, because it kind of, goes with what's happening today. Like, you have to wear the mask, right? You have to, please wear the mask, You have to wear. Are we not free to live and die as we choose?
Right. And
right. And some of these old elderly people in homes that are nearing the end of their life, regardless of COVID, right? And they are being forced. We got to keep them safe. We can't see you. We can't touch you. We can't. Yeah. It's because our society is so afraid of death.
Yes.
Right. And we don't handle death well.
No.
And so, because until we can actually stop being so afraid of death, we can't evolve past, and being who we really are, making choices that make us feel well, because we're trying too hard. It's like holding a baby bird,
right?
Hold the baby bird tight, hold it tighter, and you're killing the bird.
Right.
It's kind of the same concept. And that's how I personally feel with this pandemic going on, COVID.
Sure.
It's the same thing. We're squeezing it to death, you know, planning on sending kids off to school masked up with, the information that touching other people may kill them, or they may be responsible for killing their grandma. They bring it home.
And you hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of that's being talked about.
No, it is. It is a big thing to not die. Like, our whole reason to live, we just exist to not die.
Yeah.
What? Or not get sick. And I'm like, that's not, but that's the medical model that would say that. Where in other cultures, it's a very enlightening thing to die. Like you're actually leveling up in some belief system. I happen to believe that. Like, I'm like, I hope that I get the choice to, like, literally have people around me.
Yeah.
When I cross over.
Yeah.
Like, I'll see you guys. Like, I'm gone, like, and you can cross over peacefully. That's why I hope for my brother. Like, he was by himself in a hospital room and he had a seizure and he passed on. I'm like, I hope he was at peace.
Yeah.
And I know the brain does things maybe that we know of that maybe in your perception of it, maybe, I don't know. Like, I looked and I was like, maybe everybody has their own version and it only is activated upon death.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's just like this switch, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be something that we fear.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
something
and
that is,
what does quality of life mean? You
right?
know, what does quality of life mean in this
Right.
situation? Because how long are we going to stay cooped up, unsocial, masked up? There's no end to it, because in Colorado, I've heard that our governor is, first it's going to be like a 30-day mandate of masks, but then it's going to turn into until the vaccine is rolled out, right? So, what are your thoughts on the vaccine? Let's get into that a little bit.
So here's my thing, and I know there's some people that Dr. Mark Hyman has
Yep.
been coming out, and some other people, and he had to communicate to himself. Some people are like, I'm not anti-vax.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I might be anti-vax. Like I might be, and I'm not afraid to lose anybody on it.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, am I pro-choice? Yeah, I guess I'm just going to defend the not using it. Like,
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to go over here and say no to all of them. And here's why. Here's just why. If if you were explained, all I love, like, it's just it's not based on much. They haven't had a good history. Like, they ended polio. If you go back and you look a little more, it was maybe sanitation. It was maybe the DDT was used on certain things and was triggering something.
Yeah.
And it was like, I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
interesting, because I just had Dr. Paige Mott on, who is also a
Yeah.
chiropractor, and
Yeah.
she said that the polio vaccine actually came out after polio rates went down.
That's what they had. And then it had another resurgence, like, in theory, caused by the vaccine. And it was
Right.
like, they were also interpreting cases kind of like they are now, where it was attacking the horn of the spinal cord, the anterior horn, and you would express symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But this toxic thing used in agriculture could express the same symptoms. It wasn't polio, but it was
Right.
being counted as it. So we have an epidemic of
Interesting.
polio, and it was like, wait,
Oh,
that
so
wasn't.
they botched the numbers back then too.
I know, and so that's not new. You know
Right.
what I mean? So vaccines, just in my opinion, haven't come from a good place.
Right.
It'd be like starting a relationship on a cheating. Like, you cheated with somebody, and that's how you started the relationship. It's like,
This is
I
a
mean, it
little
could work
shaky.
out. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to judge if somebody, but it's just like, I mean, you cheated on somebody, and
Right.
and now we're like together.
Based on a lie.
I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So here's my thing with it, and I just did a video on it. If we were explained, because if we were sat down and explained the side effects of aspirin, Lipitor, and
Mm-hmm.
Celexa, the
Yeah.
antidepressant, or Celebrex, or Celexa, antidepressant, cholesterol medication, and aspirin.
Mm-hmm.
If you were listed the side effects and explained,
Yeah.
and it's not side effects, it's side reactions. This is what's
Right.
going to happen.
Right.
This is our method. This is what's going to happen. Do you still want to move forward? It's your choice, but I need to explain these to you. Well, there's a chance that my face might peel off if I take cholesterol medications. Okay, you just at least get the choice, right?
Yeah.
So if we were explained the ingredients of vaccines and explained the side effects of those, which is this lengthy thing,
Yes.
and you weren't bullied by a political, governmental, nurse,
Yep.
medical who gets money for, and it was just this nice
Yeah.
conversation that you could have for your child,
Yeah.
for you. And it's like, well, no, I don't think so. And now,
Right.
too many people are coming out. I just think I just don't think there's any reason they should have ever existed. And if somebody was like, what if you were traveling and going to a malaria place? And I was like, but there's people there that exist. I'm not going to go drink toilet water,
Right.
but I would really hope that I'm prepared. Now, if you have like 1 in 42 or 1 in 31, that if you have vaccines, you're going to like express autistic spectrum symptoms.
Yeah.
1 in 31. So if I travel 1 in 31 flights abroad and I get vaccinated every time, and the chances are I could possibly end up, I'm
Not
good.
doing it.
Like,
Yeah.
I have this uncanny confidence in what the human has survived up until now.
Right.
And I just don't, with what that solution is, I'm sorry. And I know like some people are like, well, the schedule is really different and you were vaccinated. Yeah, I know I was. And I don't even know what I'm trying to heal from that schedule
Right.
because I don't know. Like I
Well, it was
had
a lot less back when we were kids.
crazy less. The
Yeah.
ingredients were different, but do
Yep.
I have maybe some food sensitivities now? Do I have
Mm-hmm.
something that's coming down the line that maybe I'm going to have to deal with? Or I don't know, but there's no
Right.
getting out of it. There's no cost to, there is a cost
Right.
when you,
Absolutely.
it's
And if you
trying,
think that there isn't a consequence, you're sorely mistaken.
that's what yeah,
And you know, I can speak to this issue personally because my son was injured by a vaccine.
I didn't
So
know that.
yes, so when he was 2, they forced us all to get a flu shot because my daughter was born premature, and they were very concerned that she would get RSV, and then they told me she may die. So they forced us all to get a flu shot. And a few days later, my son threw up once, and then he started with bruising all over his body. And it was ITP, which is a condition where your blood doesn't clot. It's basically like being a hemophiliac. So they, at the time, did not tell me it was because of the flu shot. It took years later for me to discover that ITP is listed on the pamphlets as a side
No
effect.
way.
Yes. Yes.
And it was a flu shot
It was
for
a flu
you,
shot.
2-year
Yep.
old.
Yep. And my husband got it as well.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is where I think we get lost in labels
Yeah.
and lost in judgment, and we come from things from a non-neutral position, right? We have our opinions. Generally speaking, we have our opinions. Oh, that's crackpots to stuff. Oh, that's pseudoscience. Oh, those are anti-vaxxers. Those are this, those are that. Our brains are constantly grouping people,
Right.
and then we label those groups as we see fit. Oh, these are professionals. We can trust them. What I'm saying today is we can't trust that model anymore, right? Because I can tell you 100% that's what happened to my kid. And I'm not a crazy anti-vaxxer,
Right. Right.
right? Like, this is just my experience. But that is how an agenda is pushed along,
Wow.
discrediting and then not individualizing someone's experience.
Were you listened to after at all? Did anybody acknowledge that it was
No,
possible? Still
no.
nobody, even though you were like, wait, it's on the
Yeah, no one has ever acknowledged that that's what it was.
still.
I did talk to a new family practitioner that I've gone to, which leans towards more of a natural
Yeah.
standpoint. And her remedy to, she was kind of pushing me on the vaccinations because my son has not been vaccinated since. And I just kind of fly under the radar with it. You know, we're going to wait. You know, he's 17 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
shit.
wait. And she's still pushing, she still wants the records, right? Yes, yeah, we're gonna wait, you know. And she said, well, I said, listen, I'm not anti-vaxxer, but
Yeah.
I'm concerned, the ITP, blah, blah, blah. So her remedy to that was that we test his blood count before we give him the vaccine.
Uh,
That's not a solution. He's not going to have a problem right now. He's going to have a problem after he has the vaccine.
I know. Wow. Wow.
So this is why, you know, before you judge somebody, before
Yeah.
you think you know what's going on, what
Yeah.
I'm saying today is we don't know a lot of what we don't know.
Right.
Yeah. We just don't know. And so to start from a point, and I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to stay neutral. I mean, we all have our biases and experiences and we
Right.
carry those with us. It's difficult to stay neutral. But you can if you're aware.
Yeah.
You know, if you were aware and you practice a bit of a habit of saying, you know, why am I not neutral with this issue?
Right.
Why am I not neutral on vaccines? Right? And I can tell you very clearly why I'm not neutral on vaccines. But
Sure.
someone who maybe had a positive experience with a vaccine, maybe they're very emotional about it, but maybe
Right.
that's coming from a fear standpoint,
Right.
right? And then you got to check that, right? Why am I so fearful? If I'm
Right.
vaccinated, why am I fearful that someone else isn't?
Sure.
Right? If you believe in the vaccine,
and the
right?
bullying that would
And,
go behind it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, wait, you were bullied? That just doesn't seem like a care plan that I would want to be a part of. I
oh,
don't, it'd be
yeah.
like a used car salesman approach to health. You
Mm-hmm.
were bullied?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were like shamed by the nurse
Yep.
practitioner, and the doctor followed up, and I was like, oh, leave.
Yeah.
God, I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah.
But that right there would be a telltale. Definitely not. It just, that's your answer right there, right? And
Yeah.
it's just very unsettling because
Yeah.
this is, this is health. This
Yeah.
is our medical, like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
coming to you with maybe the most important thing that we have access to right now is our ability to live and
Right.
repair and
Well, without our health, we have nothing.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's so many
There's
other people that are like, I just, okay, that's okay. I don't get how you, but that's okay. That's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
It's most important to me. It's
Yep.
okay.
Yep. I know it. And with today now, so let's flip this a little bit and start
Yeah.
thinking about what could be the positives
Yeah.
of this. Okay. So like we're going through this stuff right now where it seems like somebody's on this side, somebody's on that side, like it's so much division, right? But do you see this as an opportunity that maybe healthcare could shift
Oh, hell yeah.
based on this fiasco alone?
So healthcare or the public?
Well, the public shift and then that causes, do
I
you
know. So
think?
here's the thing, right? Like I feel like there's so much, like if you really go down any rabbit hole you want, and there's so many rabbit holes out there, right? Like if
Yeah.
you go down them, there's so much darkness. Like you can
Yeah.
see there's, it's all, I can't even do it because I like, my favorite movies are like rom-com, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta like control, and somebody's like, wait, what? And I'm like, I feel awesome after them. Like,
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? And they're just like, you don't like, X. And I'm like, no, I feel like shit after that.
I
Like,
know. Why do you
I
want to watch a depressing movie about someone
don't
dying
know.
of cancer? That happens in real life.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want
Yeah.
to watch that. It's not like I'm in
I'm the same
denial,
way.
but I'd rather watch a movie that takes place about survival on a tropical island with
Yeah.
time travel than
Yeah.
like, or like the Cosmos or a rom-com like Serendipity or Notting Hill or hell
Yeah.
yeah. Like, oh yeah. Well, if we go down those rabbit holes and you look at all this darkness and all this stuff that we could be afraid of, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to live that way, but there has to be a balance in the universe because it's just the way it works,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so there has to be this massive amount of light that's coming in the form of,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I can hold faith in the fact that there is a yin and a yang, a positive and negative, a light, a dark, a vanilla, a chocolate. I mean, there is
Yeah.
a swaying of energy that this is so dark right now.
Yeah.
There's going to be this monster light coming out. So
Yeah.
whatever that's in the form of, whether nature decides, whether the earth decides, I hope I'm around when it's over. Like
Yeah.
I hope I'm recognized as a probiotic, but it's like, I feel like there's going to be a major shift in humanity. Like I really truly feel like, because there's more, when you see the number of views that watched Plandemic,
Yes.
or you see the number of petition signers who wanted to oppose Gates, right? And I'm like, shit, those numbers are huge.
They are.
That's with censoring. Like,
Yes. That's a good point.
Damn, I'm like, so people are okay, there's millions. Let's go. So scarily enough, I don't know if we could ever overturn the power that's the, like, I'm the most ambitious, hopeful. Oh, like I really truly think I could fly. Like I really do. And I don't know if all conditions were ideal. I can't say I can't. But so I just don't know, because I don't know the possibility. I don't know like what it's, you can't, well, laws of physics, I know, but we're limited by those laws of physics that I know are nature, but I also know that there's stuff inside not activated.
That's right.
If I was able to activate it, could I possibly?
Yeah.
I'd like to say yes. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, like, could we change this? I don't know if it would possibly change. Like, Are you going to vote? No, I'm not going to vote. I've never voted. I want the whole thing dismantled.
Right.
I want the CDC to be done. I want the FDA to be gone. I want the president gone. I want everybody gone. So what would that take? 300 million people not voting. Like, what if we didn't? What if we all just turned against all of it? And honestly, I don't know. Like, what if we just created this scenario where we had like 12 people all representing just different ideas instead of parties and division and all this? And it's like, what if we had, as the Department of Health and Human Services, or what if we had the Department of Education? The Department of Education leader was a teacher, not a bureaucrat business dick, you know, like we actually had a doctor of holistic, you know what I mean, at the front. We actually had, in other countries, they have to serve in the specialty to represent politics at that field. We don't have to in America. So that's interesting to me. So it's like, I don't know if we have, I do know we have the power, like ants, to like turn. I know there's a shift, but I feel like there also always has to be a divide. Like there has to be an antagonizing something.
A yin to the yang.
Right. So I don't know if we can change the top. I just think you and I could get more, like if we're a pin cushion, we can get more pins. You know what I mean? And like have this, that's my hope. Because is it like naive? I don't think anything's, dude, you don't even want to know what I think is possible. And I already said it, right? So like, I just think if we got close enough, somehow somebody would try to end us in some way, you know, whether it's, I don't know. I just, if we became a threat enough, like what's the power? I don't think we're above nature. So I think if the powers that be, the cabal or whatever you want to say, Rockefellers or whatever, if they really tried to do what they want to do, I think nature or the earth would just go, nope. And would just shut them off. But taking a lot of us with them. Do you know what I mean? Like so I'm just like, when I look at a tsunami or I look at a hurricane, it's like an immune response of the earth, right? And I'm like,
healing itself.
It's totally
you're right.
Itself. What a great thing. And somebody's like, what if you were a part of that? I'm moving on. We're all going to die. I would just hope that the earth sees me as this probiotic, as I've said, this positive that could help further the existence of it, but always in civilizations more advanced than ours, they just end it. And it's like, damn, my buddy's like, I think an asteroid, man. He's like, an asteroid's just going to do it again. And I'm like, well, maybe, but that sucks because I don't want to go. Or if it's aliens or whatever, you know, the raptor, or you want to say, you know, the nature, I don't know. But I think if we get close enough to feeling that we have control over any of this, I think it'll quickly shift.
Right.
If we don't hit that.
That's an interesting point, because it's interesting to me that people think that they have control anyway. Like you're literally a water balloon living on a big rock, spinning through the universe of darkness.
For real, right? I mean,
I got no control.
You're not doing anything. Stop.
That's right.
Like, we can't do, and it's like, oh, we're going to end the world. No, we're not. She's going to kick us off before we even come close to threatening it. Like, it just doesn't. So I don't, I feel like totally, because I'll get goosebumps. I'll read, I'm like, things are changing. It's almost like there is an awakening happening, you know? And I just find that, like, I don't care who it's in the form of, who, you know, if it's president, like, honestly, I don't care. Like, I just don't care.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't, because ultimately it's like, okay, if the United States turned into a communist or so, are they mandated, then I'm gone. Or I'm going into the mountains, or I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to move to Costa Rica or Perth, Australia, or I'm going to find the next freest place. We would just survive. You know what I mean? And I just don't think we would take it to the point to where we have to be scared.
Right.
It's just like, I just truly look at the shift that's happened. I've gotten a lot of hate. You've gotten a lot of hate. You know this. Like, there's people calling me out saying I'm killing people. I'm a quack. I'm this, that.
Yeah.
And I don't like enemies.
No.
It hurts. It does. I let it in, and I'm like, man.
Stop reading your comments.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't. That's the thing, and I can't because it'll
yes, it will.
My appetite will go
That's
away,
right.
and then I'll have a nightmare. Right. And then I'm like, oh, whoa, I let you affect my sleep, and I let you affect my meal. Those are two things I love.
And it's quite possible that that person is operating out of fear. Period.
More or less, right?
Yeah.
Like, we just don't like that we just said that there's possibility and that it's on you and there's accountability. They didn't like that. And so I feel there's more love and light coming, authentic love and light from people being like, I knew I wasn't the only one. I'm like, I know. No, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep being outspoken, because this is nothing new that I've said or that's made sense to me for 20 years.
Right.
Now it's just a collective attacking what I thought, what made sense. Do you know what I mean? Before it was like, we're going to think about health, but we've got war, or we've got, no, now it's like health.
Yes.
And funk.
It's in the forefront.
This is in our wheelhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you need to research the other side. And it's like, I was already over there.
It got me over here. That's
why I'm on this side. This isn't new to me. It's new to you because you just started. Bro, I've been going for 20 years. I've been
here for 20 years. I've been planning for a pandemic for 20 years.
I've been waiting, and it's good. That's why I'm okay. Like, it's cool. I'm good.
When you know that you've done everything you possibly can, then what else you can't do anything else.
That's it. Out of our control, we admit that.
Yep. It comes down to quality of life now.
Right.
Right. So you've done the work. Now you just gotta live it out and see how it goes.
And I've said that too. Are you cool with, like, I'm good that we're not guaranteed the next breath, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I truly am. I've lived so much and done so many amazing things. I'm good. Like, I really, if it were tomorrow, dude, what's next? I don't know, but I can't wait to see.
That's such a peaceful place to be.
That's why and I know there's other cultures outside America that speak like that. There's other Far East, and they do. Anytime there's turmoil or trauma, they're always just like more at peace because they've done the work to facilitate, put themselves in a position, get the garden ready.
Yeah.
Whatever comes, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
It is okay.
That's it. And I hope that I get to hold somebody's hand when we move forward. You know what I mean? Or something that we're not alone. Like, we're together in this whole thing in some fashion. And I talk to nurses that hold hands of people passing on. And I'm like, wow, that's so powerful that they didn't have anybody, but you were there for them to exit and peacefully move forward. And you shared that with them.
Right.
Like, that's just an amazing thing. You know, I don't know. So we've got life to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Not
life is for living.
You know,
right. Life is for living, not for just
write that down. Hold on, it's a post, and I'm like a songwriter, right? I dated him, and she'd like wake up and was like writing stuff. I'm like, you okay? She's like, yeah, I just got an idea. Like, she dreamt. I'm like, that's so bananas. Hold on. What did we just say?
Life is for living.
Life is for living.
Yeah.
Life is for living.
I don't know.
Wait, life is to be like life.
It's about quality of life,
not death feared or something like that. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's why I'm like, ooh, that's good. I'd be a good bumper sticker writer because I come up with all these like bumper sticker ideas. You could bring back those bumper stickers.
So how do people connect with you?
So if you go to my website, drtommyjohn.com, drtommyjohn.com, all my social media is on there. Ways to connect with me: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And connect with me. Literally.
Yeah. I've noticed that about your social media.
So
you actually connect with people.
So I try, and
you have discussions back and forth, and it's not angry type. It's really, how you doing today? How you doing today?
Literally, that's it. There'll be people that are like, wow, thank you so much for getting back to me. I didn't even know. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you messaged me. You're a human being who like sent me a message.
Right.
Now, I won't respond to hate because there's just no flip.
There's no point.
Cool, but if somebody sends me a DM and it really sometimes it's, to be honest, I don't know. There's not much I can do from afar. Check out this podcast, check out this person, follow this person, find somebody in your area. Here's some questions to ask to be able to interview them, because remember, you're interviewing them.
That's right.
Of course, they are not in control. You're not a product. You are interviewing the doctor to serve you, or the specialist, not the other way around.
That's such an important point to remember. And that goes to speak to where we're at today. Mm-hmm. Right? Because, and it's the same thing, even, I realized years ago that when I buy a mortgage, I'm buying a mortgage. Right? But here, usually we're put in this position where we're praying that we get the mortgage. Please sell us something. Right. A mortgage is a product.
Right. So I bought it.
But wait, how did this get flipped like this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How did this get flipped like this? You are picking them. And if they're annoyed by your questions, which has happened to me before.
Totally.
Yeah. Like, then you're not the right practitioner for me.
Done. It doesn't sync up with you.
No.
And that's not really, like, we're not being represented. The public health is not being represented right now. Like, wait, you work for us, man.
Yeah.
Like, hold on a second, and I same thing. Like, I try to be so humble to that, even in my practice, because again, I'm not above you. It's not a title or anything else.
Yeah.
I'm working alongside you. You're leading the charge. I'm following your breadcrumbs, not the other way around. Right. So I try to be humility in the face of the body, right? Like, because the mastery and the intelligence inside,
right?
I'm not anything to that. I couldn't possibly know what.
Maybe we're just not comfortable with art,
right?
Because I remember the first time someone told me that practicing medicine was an art. It was years ago, and my son had a really bad infection, and she said, she gave me a couple options, and she said that medicine is an art. And that wasn't what I wanted to hear at that point in my life, right? Because I was scared. I was scared for my kid. So I wanted a concrete answer. But now that was probably one of the most profound things anyone had ever said to me. Because
How long ago was that?
What's that?
How long ago was that?
15 years ago.
So 15 years ago, and this is in like a pediatrician of an allopathic, like.
Yep, in an emergency room.
15 years ago.
In Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Canada. And so that I didn't like her answer at the time. Okay, but now I understand it.
Right?
So it's this whole concept again about hanging on so tight. Right? We have to just loosen the grip and realize and have a little faith in our own immune systems and what the body is capable of.
Which would be that power we have ruins pharmaceutical studies.
Yes.
Because we heal in a placebo manner. We heal on sham treatments, and it ruins their proof that they need to do a drug. Yeah. We're so powerful that in the billion-dollar industry, we ruin their research.
Right.
Just the random human.
Right.
Who doesn't even know, whoever they're testing on.
Dr. Bruce Lipton is just love him and love his work. And if people understood his work, and, he would be the chief practitioner.
He'd be the Fauci. And
yes.
Dispenza would be the Burks.
Yes.
And, and something else would be like, dude, could you imagine our country under like that? Like, oh, hell yeah. They're advising the president. Let's go.
Exactly. We're good. Dude, we're fine here.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
This is great.
Yeah, it was really a great conversation. I hope it brings some light to people, because that's my intent here. We can't, drive out darkness with more darkness. No. Right? We have to just spread light. So I think that this conversation was a lot of fun and just really authentic. And I appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you seeking me out and reaching out, and this was great. And anytime you want to chat or jam or talk about rom-coms or movies, or
I'm totally up for it.
Thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, it's Friday. Hey.
Yeah. Say hi to the ocean for me. I miss it.
I'm literally about to go out there right now, so I absolutely will. It's okay. You got the mountains, right?
I do have the mountains in my backyard. I'm good. But I do miss the ocean.
I know.
I grew up on Vancouver Island in Victoria, British Columbia.
Really?
Yeah. So I used to live in a block away from the ocean my whole life. And then I moved to Colorado for the mountains. So
any lakes near you?
There are. And I get out there as often as I can.
Lakes and streams, running water?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Lots of rivers. Okay. Boulder Creek's nice big creek. So I'm fairly close to there. So lots of access to water, but not every day. So
I will, I'll talk to her. The Pacific is kind of on her own, she's on her own page.
Yeah.
Sometimes she took my phone the other day, so it's fine. She swallowed up my phone. Oh, no. It was fine. It was 4th of July and I was jumping on rocks, going to my spot, and it took my phone. I'm like, my phone just like totally got, okay, ocean. You were just like, yeah, you don't need that. I'm like, dang it. And I'm like, what? I can't post a picture of the ocean. And I'm like, well, you're at the ocean, dude. Nature, like you kept score. Oh, man.
That's awesome.
So I will talk to her and I will say that you said, hey.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be chatting back and forth and now through social media for sure. Awesome. New friends.
Definitely.
Hey, take care. If the naturally inspired movement makes sense to you, let's do this together and transform the medical model and help people take charge of their health. Learn more about how you can join the naturally inspired movement by going to naturallyinspiredadvocate.com or call me at 970-475-4862.